always thought that the phrase, "he's going through a phase," was something people said about teenagers who suddenly dyed their hair blue or started listening to music that sounded like a blender breaking down. I never imagined I'd use it to describe my 63-year-old husband, Leonard. A man who wore beige like it was a religion and thought spontaneity was a type of yogurt. We were, by all standards, doing very well. We lived in a lovely house in Connecticut, the kind with columns that serve no purpose other than making your neighbors jealous. Leonard owned 2 successful car dealerships, and I ran a boutique beauty salon that catered to women who wanted to look 10 years younger without admitting they were 60. Our 2 kids were off at good universities, and for the first time in years, the house was quiet. Then, Leonard went on a 2-week business trip to Miami. Now, Leonard doesn't like beaches. He thinks sand is aggressive. So when he said he had a dealership conference in Miami, I raised an eyebrow but didn't press it. Maybe he was finally loosening up, I thought. Maybe he'd come back with a tan and some seashells. Well, he came back with tattoos. Not 1, not 2, 3 tattoos. One on his forearm, a flaming skull with sunglasses. One on his chest, a panther, yes, a panther. And one that I didn't see until much later, which I will simply say required a very awkward accidental glimpse when he bent over one morning. And he didn't stop there. He swapped his khakis and golf polos for leather jackets, chains, and jeans so tight I thought he was borrowing from our daughter's college wardrobe. He got his teeth whitened to a shade of blinding that could signal aircraft. He even started wearing cologne that smelled like a nightclub bathroom mixed with desperation. First, I laughed. I truly did. I thought it was funny. Len's having a late midlife crisis, I told my friends at book club. He probably just needs to feel alive again. We all giggled over wine and agreed it was harmless. Then he stopped coming home at night. He started working late, but I knew Leonard couldn't even log into his email without calling our son. The man used a flip phone until 2022. Suddenly, he was texting nonstop, tapping away like a teenager in love, smiling at his screen with that dumb look men get when they think they're being mysterious. He bought a sports car. Not least, bought a neon green Lamborghini. You know, the kind that screams, "I'm compensating for something." He told me it was for test drives at the dealership. I told him unless he was test driving for Vin Diesel, he had lost his mind. The worst part? He started going to casinos. He said he was networking. I said, "With who?" "The blackjack dealer." He lost $40,000 in one weekend. When I confronted him, he told me, "Relax, babe. Money comes and goes." I nearly choked on my chia smoothie. Leonard hadn't said babe to me since 1998, and back then it was when I accidentally reversed into the mailbox. I began to hear things from mutual acquaintances. One of our neighbors spotted him at a nightclub in New York. Another saw him at a pool party, shirtless, dancing with girls half his age. I asked him about it and he said, "You only live once." I replied, "Yes, and most people try not to humiliate themselves in the process." Then came Monica. She wasn't just a name on his phone. She was Monica. She texted him late at night asking for money for a hair appointment and a cute brunch outfit. One time she wrote, "Lenny, babe, can you send $300? The girls and I want to go to the spa. You do best." The girls? Who were these girls? I didn't even want to know. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to see how far he'd go. So I watched him spiral. It was like a car crash in slow motion, except the car was a Lamborghini and the crash was his dignity. He started drinking more. He smelled like tequila and regret. He gambled like he was trying to speed-run bankruptcy. One day, he came home looking like a knocked-off version of Pitbull and said, "I think I'm gonna DJ at this new club downtown." I stared at him for a long, long time. Then I simply said, "Sure. Just make sure you're back in time to mow the lawn, DJ Midlife." It was around this time that Leonard started calling me Shawty. I wish I were joking. "Good morning, Shawty," he'd say, winking as he sipped his protein shake like some delusional gym bro. "You're looking fire today." I wasn't sure what was more offensive, the fact that he was clearly quoting a TikTok video or that he thought this was endearing. He started referring to his old friends as boring, including Bill, his best friend of 30 years and godfather to our children. Bill doesn't get it, you know? He's stuck in the past. I said, Len, Bill has a mortgage, a wife, and common sense. He didn't pierce his ear and spend $900 on glow-in-the-dark sneakers. Leonard started disappearing for entire weekends. He'd leave Friday night and return Monday morning, smelling like Axe body spray and regret. When I asked where he'd been, he'd say things like, I was vibing in Atlantic City, or worse, I was on a journey of self-discovery. Journey of self-discovery, my foot. More like a road trip through poor life decisions. Eventually, his finances caught up with him. You can only make it rain for so long before the cloud runs out. One afternoon, I walked into our kitchen to find him hunched over the counter, staring at his laptop, sweat beading on his forehead. What's wrong? I asked. I may have maxed out 3 credit cards, he muttered. 3. Technically 5. But 2 are under the business, so it's fine. Right. Nothing screams financial health like technically 5. He tried to act cool about it, brushing it off like he'd just accidentally overpaid for parking. Money is just energy, he said, quoting some woman he met at a sound bath. You gotta let it flow. I replied, well, it flowed. Right into Monica's account and the roulette table at Caesars. Then Monica disappeared. Poof. Gone. Like glitter in the wind. No more late-night texts. No more emojis. No more photos of her pouting in bikinis that probably cost more than my wedding dress. I checked his phone with zero guilt, I'd like to add, and the last message from her simply read, Can't hang with broke energy, babe. Take care, nail polish. Leonard was crushed. Devastated. He sat on our leather sectional like a broken action figure, just slouched, quiet, defeated. He looked older. Not like the fake young version he'd been playing, but truly aged. Reality had arrived, and it was not impressed with his chest tattoo. He stopped going out. Stopped shaving. Stopped pretending he was anything other than a 63-year-old man who'd burned through our savings chasing a fantasy built on bottle service and false validation. He started spending all day at home, folding towels, watching daytime TV, watering the plants. Once I found him polishing the blender like it was the crown jewels. The man who'd once declared, I'm free now, I'm gonna live my truth, was now passionately reorganizing the spice rack. And honestly, I was done. I called my lawyer. When I told Leonard I was filing for divorce, he didn't argue. He didn't plead. He just nodded slowly, like someone who finally understood the assignment after failing every pop quiz. I think a part of him was relieved. Party was over. The music had stopped. And he was the last drunk guy on the dance floor, still yelling, one more song, while everyone else had gone home. The day the papers were signed, we sat in the living room. It was quiet. No music, no flashing lights, no smell of cheap cologne. Just us. 2 people who'd once built a life together, now quietly packing it away. I looked at him and asked, was it worth it? He paused, looked down at his hands, then back at me. With the saddest smile I've ever seen, he said. That was the first time I lived, not just existed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. And maybe, just maybe, a little sorry that it took flaming skull tattoos and a woman named Monica for him to feel something. After the divorce was finalized, Leonard didn't move out right away. I gave him a few weeks to figure things out, mostly because I didn't want him sleeping in the Lamborghini and attracting more attention to our street than his neon car already did. He became strangely domestic. He started baking banana bread. Leonard, who once couldn't locate the dishwasher detergent, now had opinions on almond flour. He began watching home improvement shows, mumbling things like, that backsplash is too ambitious, while drinking chamomile tea. But he wasn't himself. Not the loud, leather-clad version. Not even the calm businessman I once married. He was something in between, like a man in a fog, waiting for direction but too embarrassed to ask. Our kids came home for a long weekend and immediately noticed the change. "Why does Dad look like he got kicked out of a rock band and a PTA meeting at the same time?" our daughter whispered. "Why is he cleaning the baseboards?" our son asked, peeking into the hallway like it was a horror movie. They didn't say much more. They could tell something had shifted. Kind of shift that doesn't need words because the silence already tells the story. One afternoon, I came back from work early and found Leonard sitting on the porch, staring at nothing in particular. He had shaved his goatee, taken off the earrings, and was wearing one of his old polos. Still had the dealership logo embroidered on the chest, now faded and slightly snugger than it used to be. He didn't look up when I sat next to him. "You ever think about what went wrong?" I asked. He thought for a moment. Then he exhaled, not dramatically, but like a balloon that had been slowly losing air for months. "I think I got scared," he said. Everything was routine, predictable, comfortable to the point of numbness. One day I looked in the mirror and saw an old man with life behind him. And then suddenly, I saw a chance to rewrite the ending. I tilted my head. "With nightclubs? And Monica?" He gave a small laugh. "Turns out the ink runs off fast when it's built on fantasy." There wasn't anything left to say. Not really. We'd both lived inside that routine, that safe little box where everyone smiled at Thanksgiving and rotated the same 5 dinner recipes. I just didn't need a personal collapse to realize comfort isn't the enemy. Boredom isn't fatal. But Leonard needed to burn it all down to see it. Eventually, he moved into a small rental apartment nearby. The Lamborghini was gone, replaced with a used Subaru he probably should have had all along. He started attending some kind of men's group at the community center. The kind where they sit in circles and talk about renewal and authenticity. I imagine there's a lot of herbal tea and flannel involved. Sometimes when I'm walking past the market or filling gas, I see him, getting groceries, chatting with the barista, existing quietly. And honestly, that's fine with me. People ask if I miss him. I tell them, I miss the man I married. Not the man who thought bottle service was a personality trait. And certainly not the man who sent $800 to a woman who called him Sugar Bear in public. They ask if I'm angry. I tell them no. Because you can't be angry at someone for waking up, even if they did it in the most ridiculous, chaotic, financially ruinous way possible. He lived, he says. And me? I stayed. I chose to exist in the quiet, in the structure, in the normal. Turns out that was living all along.